You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome back to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell.
And co-host Keelan Harvey.
Your local mortgage experts right here at 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, August 11th show. We bring into studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market on everything when it comes to your money. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to rebroadcast, but we're here to answer any questions or connect you with a guest that we have on the show. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And our last guest in studio, first time here with us, is Deanna Barley with Keller Williams Realty Everett, thinking outside the box in today's market. Thank you so much, Deanna, for joining us for the first time.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. A little bit about Deanna. Deanna is a realtor with Keller Williams Realty in Everett. She has lived in Washington her entire life and services the greater Seattle area. She's been married 9 years and is a mama to a 1-year-old baby boy. Having bought and sold multiple times herself, Deanna knows what it is like to be on both sides of the transaction. She likes to tell her clients, I'll handle the stress and you handle the excitement. That sounds like a really great place to be.
Yeah.
She is an agent who is honest and who generally cares about her clients' best interest and enjoys meeting new friends with every transaction. Deanna gives a fresh look on today's market, and her clients value her generosity and flexibility. Deanna also believes in giving back and supports Southeast Asian Orphan Foundation, a charity which builds homes for orphans in Vietnam.
So, Deanna, we've talked many times before, and you always talk about good relationships with your agent, how important a relationship is. How important is it to have a good relationship with your real estate agent?
Well, it's really important. It's just like any other relationship, right? You want to feel comfortable in it. You want to know that your agent has your best interest in mind and you can trust them with your decisions. You want to feel like you can go to them with any questions or concerns that you have. And this is one of the biggest decisions you'll make in your life, right? So you want to feel 100% comfortable about it. I would say communication is the most important part about that relationship. You want to be able to talk to the agent, and you want to know that you're being understood as well. You want your agent, too, to go above and beyond. You want to know that they'll do those things for you. And it is said that communication is the key to a successful relationship, and, communication is the key to a successful transaction as well.
Yeah, well said, Deanna. I like how you've talked about communication and being understood, especially in this market right now. As we talked with Britt earlier, the shift in the market and what we're seeing, there's a lot of buyers and sellers that really need extra communication and extrally to be understood what their questions are to explain what's happening in the market. So how do you go be above and beyond in your relationship with your clients in this market that we're in right now today, Deanna?
Right. Well, by listening and thinking outside the box. So clients want to know that they're being listened to, right? Having worked in customer service for 7 years, I realized how important it is to really listen to customers initially and really find out what they're looking for and what their needs are. This will save a lot of hassle in the future and a lot of frustration on both sides of the transaction. Another thing I think is important is thinking outside the box. So I think we as agents can sometimes get used to doing the same procedures and general searches over and over again. And I think there are different methods and different platforms that can be used and different strategies depending on each individual circumstance. And those circumstances need to be evaluated so you can see how you can go above and beyond with each individual client. And it's so important to be prudent so we can avoid those potential roadblocks in the future. And, thinking outside the box can be a lot more work at times, and sometimes it may not pan out. But you know what? Sometimes it does, and it's definitely worth the effort.
Yeah, it makes a lot. Even with us, Tina, a lot of times,
we think out of the box a little bit, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
I think we do a pretty good job of it. But sometimes, if you ever get that, you got to kind of dig with people because they have this facade of they don't really want to tell you all the facts and everything. That's so important, and so that helps you to think outside the box, right? So. Give us some examples. Do you have any examples you can think of, Deanna, where you thought outside of the box?
Sure. It's one of my favorite stories. So I had these clients, they were looking for a multi-level multifamily property, a mother-in-law in Snohomish County, around $400K. So this was really hard to find at that price range. We weren't finding homes for months and months, and they were getting really discouraged and thinking that they were never going to find a home. So I knew I had to do something different than what I was doing, something more, and think outside the box, so to speak, right? So I started looking outside their price range, and I found a home that was perfect for them, suited their needs, but it was about $25,000 more than their max budget. So I told them just to put an offer in at their max at $400 and see what happens. So they did, and at that time the sellers weren't ready to accept that offer. And so about a month later, I kept my eye on that home. About a month later, I went back to the seller and asked if they would consider our original offer, being that home was on the market for over a month or so. They still weren't ready, but about 2 or 3 weeks later, they called me and they said they were ready to accept my client's offer at their original price of $400K. So just by not giving
success.
up, it was so exciting. I mean, it suited their needs. It was perfect for them. And just by not giving up and kind of going outside the general search and doing a little more, we found a home for them, and which would otherwise not be on their radar, right? It wasn't even in their price range, but it worked out, and I was so happy for them.
Well, and you've talked about the relationship with your real estate expert. We talk about in the show, working with the best of the best, and that's who we invite in studio, and why you're here, Deanna, and being the smaller percentage that really is looking for those opportunities for the individual market strategy to think out of the box, as you say. And I know you mentioned it's a little more work, but for the most part, it's a higher success rate for you, more importantly for your buyers and sellers on whichever side that you're thinking out of the box in. So I love that. So Deanna, some things that first-time home buyers may not be aware of that you're sharing today.
Sure. I think first-time home buyers aren't aware that they don't have to pay their buyer's agent and that they work on commission. They're not paid until a deal closes, and they're paid by the seller. So they have the same interest in mind as the buyer, right? Finding them a home that suits their needs. Another thing that buyers need to be aware of is that they have to be pre-approved before they can even buy a home. And it sounds simple to us, but I think a lot of first-time home buyers aren't aware of that. And even most agents won't even start showing them a home until they are pre-approved. Yeah. They also have to be aware that they need to be prepared to pay closing costs, which can be about 2% of the selling price, and this is cash out of their own pocket. So one thing that they can do to think outside the box is they can add that amount of closing costs to the asking or offer amount. So this way they can wrap it up in their loan, and the seller is still getting the price that they're asking for. And we want to make sure we do that instead of just ask for selling or closing costs to be paid in a seller's market, because that's not a strong offer.
Yeah, and I love that. And this is the other thing about, still we're in a seller's market without a doubt, but the fact that it's getting more to a balanced market, that buyers have the ability to do some of these out-of-the-box things that the idea, what a buyer may have thought of doing before the market shifted a little bit, is if they need that money, they'll pay extra for the house and then some. But just the idea of having it there, they wouldn't get their offer accepted. So it's nice to be able to do that.
So Deanna, what should a buyer do to get their offer accepted?
Well, first off, they want to get a good lender that they can trust, right? Having a good lender is just as important as having a good agent. So, give Tina and Keelan a call. They can definitely get you underwritten, which will also strengthen your offer. If you get pre-underwritten, if you get pre-underwritten, then you get ahead of the game, right? You can close sooner, within a couple weeks, and it definitely strengthens the offer. One thing that they can also do is get a pre-inspection done. This will give them the opportunity to waive the inspection contingency when they put in their offer, and this also will make them have a stronger offer. But they have to be prepared to pay for the pre-inspection. It is the same cost as an inspection, about $400 or $500, depending, right? So this is cash out of their own pocket as well, and it doesn't guarantee them to get their offer accepted. It just gives them a stronger offer. So they want to be pretty serious about the home that they're doing the pre-inspection on. One thing that is fun that I have my buyers do that they can do to go above and beyond is to write a letter about themselves. Tell their story, talk about their family, talk about why they love the home they're putting an offer on, talk about their dog, talk about whatever, right? Just build a connection with the seller. Some people might think that doesn't work and sellers only care about the bottom dollar, which is true, a lot of the times, but it's not always true. And I've seen these letters actually affect a seller's decision.
Well, we make decisions based on emotions. And so a lot of times those emotions can take over the facts or the dollars. And so, yes, I've seen many times that our buyers have had offers accepted because of the additional warm and fuzzy side that goes into that contract. So we talked about first-time home buyers, what they may not know about. What about the first-time seller that was a first-time buyer? Now they're going to be selling the first time. What might they not know about?
Sure, they want to be prepared for the closing costs as well. And one of the big ones is excise tax. It can be about 1.8% of the selling price, which can be a significant amount of money, right? And I've seen a lot of sellers be shocked at that number, and they're not aware of it until they get into the process. So a good agent will do a net proceeds for them and let them be aware of what their closing costs will be ahead of time. And also, I think that they are not aware that buyers determine the market. So some sellers can overvalue their house, like you were saying, based on emotional connections, personal connections with the home, and they don't go with the facts that the home is only worth what a buyer will pay in today's market. And unfortunately, it's not what the seller has put into the home, but it's what a buyer will pay for it. And comps and recently solds will tell them those numbers, and a good agent will help them find the appropriate price to list their home at.
Deanna, tell us about how we can get a top dollar. And we've been talking about selling, speaking of with Britt, kind of the peak of the market. Selling seems to be a theme. What can they do if they're thinking about it to get the top dollar out of their home?
Right. What Britt said, get your home into tip-top shape. First impressions are everything. You want to make sure you do everything that's been on your honey-do list, since the time you live there, right? So do touch-up paint, do cleaning, declutter, depersonalize the home. Do your yard maintenance, pull your weeds, all the basic things that will give a good first impression. For example, I went into a home. It was a beautiful home, hardwood floor, great neighborhood. And the first impression was it was really filthy. A big dirty rug was covering the hardwood floor. There was carpet pulled out in different areas of the home. And there's, animal feces on the rug. And it just wasn't presentable. And, that house stood on the market for a long time, and they got 25 less than they were asking. So one thing they can do to, like we mentioned, you can change out the carpet. It can change the overall appearance of the home, depending on how dated the kitchen is. Slab countertops really add value. Quartz is really popular right now. It's beautiful and low maintenance. Backsplash is one of my favorite things. It also is low maintenance, and although it might not add a ton of value, it really changes the overall appearance of the kitchen. And one other thing too, a pre-inspection. If they get a pre-inspection, they can, one, fix anything that comes up on that pre-inspection to get their home ready, and then two, buyers have the opportunity to accept that pre-inspection, and they can avoid the inspection game after mutual acceptance, the back and forthness of that.
Yeah, speaking in the industry, we've heard first impression can be your lasting impression. And then I always add to it that it will extend to others' impression. So it's really, really important there. So I'd love to, as we're wrapping up our time here, to mention in your bio, you talked about your Southeast Asia Orphan Foundation, and you're really passionate about that. Can you share a little bit about that?
I'd love to. So the COF is how we shorten it. It is located in Vietnam, like you said. It's structured around helping orphans and giving them hope for the future. The number one cause of orphans in Vietnam, it's interesting enough, is traffic-related accidents. The traffic there is horrendous. And also unique to their culture there is if a child loses their father and the mother remarries, then that man most of the time will not raise another man's son.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
It is. Essentially, they become orphans. So this foundation really helps those children and gives them hope. And there are a couple different programs. You can sponsor a child $25 a month, which is what, like 4 Starbucks for us here, 4 Starbucks a month. We can give that up, and it gives them food, clothing, education, shelters them, and helps them be self-sufficient for the future. It can teach trades or educational schooling. The other program that they have that really interests me, being a real estate agent, is they can build a home for orphans for just $2,200. So we're paying $200,000 here,
That's
half
crazy.
a million. It's super
$2,200.
$2,200.
Wow.
And so that builds them a home, gives them shelter to orphans who are otherwise living on the street and with literally no shelter and starving to death. So, my husband's been actually over there and he's seen that ministry firsthand, and there is a great need there. And we love giving back to this foundation. We get pictures in the mail of, children we sponsor, pictures of the homes, and it's really great. And actually, every deal that I close, I give back to CEOF. So that's part of the reason why I do what I do. I believe that everything that I have is a gift, and I want to be able to give back because it truly is better to give than to receive.
Well, love that. And I can just see your eyes sparkling when you talk about the foundation, and it's beautiful.
Thank you. And if anyone else wants to learn more about it, please just go to seaoff.org. That's SEAOF.org.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for Deanna coming into studio. It was a pleasure having you here, and we look forward to having you come back.
Thank you so much.
And this is your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell.
And your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
We're signing off for the day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Look forward to seeing you here again next Saturday, right here, same time, same place, at 11:50 a.m. KKNW. Have a great weekend, everyone.